All right, let's dive right in. For decades, this has been the stuff of pure science fiction, right? But today, a handful of companies are locked in this incredibly high-stakes race to build the ultimate connection between us and our machines, a direct link right into the human brain. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you could bypass damaged nerves or restore senses that were lost, or even communicate just by thinking? This isn't some hypothetical from a movie anymore. It's the central promise of a technology that is, right now, moving from the lab into our reality. So, what are we talking about here? It's called a brain-computer interface, or a BCI. And while it sounds super futuristic, early versions have actually been around for about 30 years, helping people with things like ALS control a device or, say, cochlear implants restoring hearing. But the dream has always been for something bigger, a direct, super high bandwidth connection right into our neurons. And since 2016, you can't have this conversation without talking about one company in particular, Elon Musk's Neuralink. They really set out to build this next-generation BCI that could be commercialized to, in their words, improve millions of lives. And boy, did they move fast. I mean, they were founded in 2016, and by 2020, they're showing off neural activity in a pig. A year later, 2021, they've got a monkey playing the video game Pong with its mind. And then, the big one, January 2024, they hit the ultimate milestone, implanting their very first device in a human patient. And that patient is Noland Arbol, a 29-year-old who is quadriplegic. When they asked him if he wanted a chip in his brain, he said yes, just like that. Without any hesitation, you could just feel his excitement. And it really embodies the immense hope that this tech represents for so many people with paralysis. And at first, wow, it was a stunning success. The implant let Noland control a computer cursor with his thoughts. He was playing games, communicating with a speed he hadn't experienced since his accident. Everything was looking, well, it was looking great. But then, just a few weeks after the surgery, things started to go wrong. Nolan was told that a huge chunk of the device's tiny electrodes, 85% of them, had unexpectedly pulled back from his brain tissue. They just became unresponsive. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting. This wasn't a total shock. Apparently, the company had seen similar problems in their animal trials, but hadn't disclosed that specific risk to Nolan. This just added to this whole string of controversies, from FDA citations about poor lab conditions to some really deep internal disagreements about their whole approach. In fact, one of those disagreements led a co-founder to just walk away and, get this, start a rival company. And this is where the race gets truly fascinating. Because while Neuralink was grabbing all the headlines, this new wave of competitors popped up, and each one had a fundamentally different answer to the question, what's the safest and what's the best way to connect to the brain? So that co-founder who left Neuralink, Dr. Ben Rappaport, he started a company called Precision Neuroscience. His big issue was with Neuralink's core method, sticking these threads deep into the brain, which he argued always causes some amount of damage and scarring. So his solution? A super thin, flexible film, 1/5 the thickness of a human hair, that just rests on the brain's surface without penetrating it at all. It's safer and even removable. Then you've got another company, Synchron, which takes an even more radical approach. They've developed a device that can be delivered through your body's blood vessels, kind of like a stent, and then opened up inside a vessel right on the brain's surface. And the result of that? No open brain surgery whatsoever. And of course, we can't forget the old guard. BlackRock Neurotech has been in this game since 2008, and while their implant is also invasive, they recently pulled off something absolutely monumental. They allowed a man paralyzed by ALS to speak again, with his own voice, by decoding his brain signals with near-perfect accuracy. Just incredible. So here's the crucial point. This whole BCI race, you can basically see it as a debate over one central question. How invasive do you really need to be to get the job done? And each of these approaches, well, it comes with its own set of risks and rewards. When you look at the different strategies side by side, you can really see the trade-offs. You've got the highly invasive approaches from Neuralink and BlackRock, right? They use those penetrating electrodes to get a really high bandwidth signal. Then there's this middle ground from Precision, using that removable surface film for high resolution with a lot less risk. And finally, you have the super low invasiveness approach from Synchron, which avoids brain surgery completely by using a blood vessel stent. It all really boils down to this fundamental trade-off. The deeper and more invasive the device, the richer and more detailed the brain signals you can actually capture. The less invasive you are, the safer the procedure is, but the signal might not be as strong. So the big question everyone's trying to answer is, how much signal do you actually need? But let's not lose sight of why any of this matters. Dr. David Brandman, he was describing the moment that BlackRock's patient spoke for the first time. And this quote just reminds us of the profound human stakes here. This tech isn't just about controlling cursors on a screen. It's about restoring a person's ability to connect with the world. It's about giving a voice back to the voiceless. And that, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. As this technology gets more and more mature, we have to move beyond just how it works and start asking if and when we should be using it, especially when we start talking about applications that go way beyond medicine. You can kind of think about the potential uses in 4 stages. First, you've got treatment, restoring speech or sight, something most of us would agree is a great thing. Second is prevention, like maybe stopping dementia before it even starts. But then we get into a much murkier area, enhancement, like giving someone a photographic memory, and then augmentation, like adding entirely new abilities we don't even have. And this opens up a total Pandora's box of ethical dilemmas. I mean, what happens when BCIs are no longer about healing, but about creating a new class of enhanced superhumans? Who owns your brain data? And what happens if someone hacks the very thoughts inside your head? These are not philosophical exercises anymore. They are very practical questions we're going to have to answer, and soon. As these BCIs move from labs to clinics and, let's be real, eventually to consumers, we're all going to have to ask not just what is possible, but what is worthwhile. And the path we choose, well, it may end up shaping the future of humanity itself.